Hi, I'm Andrea Anthony, and you're watching Eat, Drink, and Bake with Andrea. I have some great recipes for you today. We're going to start off with a salad, which is tricolor, with a roasted garlic vinaigrette. We move on to Mediterranean chicken with caramelized onions and a tzatziki sauce, which is cucumber yogurt sauce. And then we're doing orzo with lemon, butter, and parmesan, and we end off with a gingered pear crisp. We got a lot of work to do today, but I want to talk to you about a new product I found. I'm always on the lookout for good products that I can use in my recipes, and I use a lot of olive oil. I found this product called Terra Medi, extra virgin olive oil, meaning that it's from the first press, which makes it low acidic. And what I love about this recipe is it's versatile. We can use it in a salad, and I'm also using it with my Mediterranean chicken today. So I'm so excited about this new olive oil that I've tried called Terra Medi. It's produced in Greece, and it is extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, meaning the first press. It's 100% Greek olive oil, and that means from one country of origin. It's not a mix from different areas. It's one country, only olives from Greece, which makes it extra special. Now, Terra Medi means from the earth, and this olive oil is indeed earthy. It's smooth, it's buttery, it sort of has a mixed herb flavor to it and a slight peppery aftertaste that makes it great in all kinds of recipes. I use it in salad dressings, I use it for cooking, and it also is a great dipping olive oil. They also have an organic product as well. It's non-GMO, and it's great for all around cooking and recipes and so forth. Homer actually quoted olive oil as being liquid gold, and this product is liquid gold. We're going to start off our salad dressing, which is a roasted garlic salad dressing, and we're going to start off with our Terra Medi olive oil. This is my olive oil of choice today, and it's a very big part of our recipe. So we have our Terra Medi olive oil, we have balsamic vinegar, we have our spices, we have thyme, we have oregano and rosemary. We move on to our roasted garlic, a little salt and pepper, a little bit of sugar and Dijon mustard, and we put a little bit of water in there just to give it a little consistency. And our salad itself is tricolor. It's our arugula, we have Endive, radicchio, we have our celery, red onions, red peppers, carrots, and shaved Parmesan cheese. So we're going to get going on that and start mixing everything together. So we're going to start though first talking about our roasted garlic. Now it's fairly simple to roast your garlic, and it adds another level of flavor to your dressing. So all you're going to do is you take your clove of garlic, a whole bulb, and we're just going to add a little bit of olive oil on the top of it. We're going to wrap it in foil, and we're going to throw this in a 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes until it's nice, golden, and caramelized. Okay, so this has been in the oven for 30 minutes. It's cooled a little bit, and you can see it's all caramelized, and they're very soft on the inside. Okay, so this is actually what it looks like. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to show you how it comes right out. You're just going to squeeze each clove, and it comes right out. You squeeze the skin around the garlic. It's nice and golden, and it's actually very soft. So let's just get those out of there. So we're going to put those in our mixer, and we're going to add extra virgin olive oil, and here's our balsamic vinegar, really nice flavor for the recipe. And we have our thyme, oregano, rosemary, a little bit of sugar, salt and pepper, and we have our Dijon mustard. Okay, a little bit of extra salt. By the way, I like to use pink salt, Himalayan salt. It's got the most minerals of all the salt, and I love it in recipes, and I also like it as a finishing salt. Okay. We're done. That is our dressing. Now, I like to do the dressing first because you want those flavors to combine a little bit. So always a good idea, do your dressing first, and if you can do it in the morning, even better, so that the flavors have a chance to sort of combine together and enhance themselves. So we're going to put that aside. we're going to start our salad, which we have our Arugula Radicchio, our Endive, and you can see I just love how these colors go together. This is one of my favorite salads because it's so colorful. It presents really nicely. Now you'll notice that the celery is julienne sliced. I like that kind of a slice for this particular salad. We did the same thing with the onions. But if you're not a fan, you can use vidalias, which I happen to prefer if I'm not going to use a red onion in this recipe. They tend to be a little sweeter. We have our red bell peppers, our carrots, and we end off with our shaved parmesan. And there you go. It's very, very simple. It's colorful. It's a great salad. I actually will sometimes have this as a main course or as an appetizer. So we have our roasted garlic dressing with our tricolor salad. Okay, so we're ready for our Mediterranean chicken. And this recipe is in 3 parts, 3 levels to it. We have our caramelized onions, and what we have here for that is, of course, our onions, and I'm using vidalias, and you'll notice how these are cut. We have some turbinado sugar, which I like using because it has a little residual molasses in there, and it browns really nicely. We have our olive oil. We're using our Terra Medi, and that's our great olive oil, nice rich flavor. We're going to use that in this recipe. And we have our butter, which is essential for browning the onions. And we have some balsamic vinegar that we're going to use to deglaze the pan at the end. We're going to move on to our marinated chicken. So we're using chicken cutlets, which are thinly sliced. So we have our extra virgin olive oil. We have our oregano, garlic, and lemon juice. That's our marinade. Now this is all about oregano and garlic in this recipe. So there's a lot of oregano, as you can see. So we're going to marinate our chicken up, and that's going to stay in the refrigerator. I usually say at least 3 hours, but if you can do overnight, even better. And then we have our tzatziki, which is our cucumber yogurt sauce, which we serve with the chicken and the caramelized onions, which just makes a nice array of flavors. And that has our sour cream. It has our Greek yogurt, which is extra thick yogurt. We have cucumbers. We have our scallions, garlic, our fresh dill, olive oil, lemon juice, and of course salt and pepper. So let's start first with our caramelized onions since they take the longest. So we're going to move over to the stove and we're going to get these going right away. Okay, so we're ready to start our caramelized onions. We're going to start with our extra virgin olive oil, and to that we're adding our butter. You can hear it sizzle. You want your pan to be hot, but keep an eye on that butter. We don't want it too hot, so I'm going to lower that a little bit. You don't want that to burn. Now we're ready for our onions. So you need a really, really big pan, the biggest pan you have. You don't want to use a pot because we need them to cook all around the onion. You need that heat on there, so we're going to keep tossing them. It would be difficult to caramelize the same way in a deep pot. So you want to have a lot of surface area when you're doing this. And we're going to toss them around a little bit. Now we're adding our sugar. This helps to brown them, kind of moves it right along. So that's our turbinado sugar, and let's just add a little salt and pepper. I'm going to keep an eye on my flame. You may have to adjust it along the way based upon how your onions are doing. Tossing along the way and also keeping an eye on your flame. I can see they're glistening, so I know that the butter and the olive oil have coated the onions. So we're just going to let them sit a little bit. Okay, so our onions are cooking. Let's start the chicken. We need to marinate that, so I'd like to get that going. Now, a word about chicken. We really, really have to be careful about cross-contamination in the kitchen. So I like to have lots of tongs in the kitchen to work with. So if I'm using these, I'm going to be careful that I don't touch anything else. My chicken hasn't touched any of the working area or anything around it, okay? Because we don't want to touch the chicken and then touch something else and risk contamination. I'm just going to get a couple of pieces in here. So we have our olive oil, garlic, lots of garlic, and lots of oregano. And then we have our little bit of fresh lemon juice. Okay, so we're going to start to stir these. And again, I'm using my tongs just to kind of toss them around the mixture. And And a nice bowl like this works out. Again, you want a bowl big enough so that you can stir your chicken around, sort of toss it, move it around along the sides. Okay, so you can kind of see now how all of this is getting coated with our garlic. You can see it all, it's a lot of garlic in here, and it just makes for a great flavor in this chicken dish. Okay, so it looks like our chicken is coated nicely, and now we're ready to refrigerate. And let's just cover this with aluminum foil. So we'll pop this in the refrigerator, and we'd like to give it at least 3 hours. Always a good idea to do this in the morning if you're planning on serving it at night, but 3 hours is sufficient, and of course more time, you'll have actually more flavor in the chicken. Okay, we'll put this in the refrigerator. Let's give our onions a check. They've been cooking for a while. Let's see how we're doing over here. All right, they're starting to brown a bit. Now you see how we're smoking out a little bit? We're gonna lower that just a bit. Now the other one thing you want to keep an eye on, you might have to add more oil along the way, olive oil. We're okay for now, but that's something that you want to look for in this recipe. But we're looking good, so we're just going to give that another toss. Got a little hot, so we turned it down. Okay, we're going to let them cook a little more, and then we'll check them again. So we're ready for our tzatziki sauce, which is our cucumber yogurt sauce. I'd like to talk to you about the cucumbers first. We're going to slice these in half. Now with this recipe, we want to get the seeds out. Okay, so you're just going to take a little spoon and you're going to run it over the length of the cucumber, and we're just going to take those seeds out. That seed doesn't really do anything for the sauce. It's really a great sauce, and I like putting in sour cream, not just yogurt. And I like the addition of the sour cream. It just adds a little bit more of a balance to it. So we're gonna just cut this up. We have our cucumbers now. They're gonna go into our bullet. And let's add our yogurt. Remember, that's Greek yogurt, which is extra thick. Add our cucumbers. And this is our sour cream. We have our scallions, fresh dill, and that's crushed minced garlic, extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, and we're going to put just a little salt and a little pepper. Okay, and that's really it. Throw everything in a bullet or a blender, and you just blend it up. And there we go, our tzatziki sauce. Time to check on our onions. They've been cooking for a while, so we have our tzatziki sauce, we have our chicken that's marinating, and now we're gonna check on our onions. Okay, these are browning really nicely now. So we're gonna give them another toss, keeping an eye that they don't really stick or cook too much. The aroma of onions, nothing like it. And the addition of that sugar really adds a nice essence to this dish, helps to brown it a bit. All right, we're looking good. We have a little ways to go. It usually takes about 30 minutes for these to completely caramelize, but they're well on their way, so we'll be back soon. So you can see now how nice and brown these are. I'm gonna deglaze the pan with some balsamic vinegar. And what that will do is anything that's stuck on the bottom will sort of come off, become part of our sauce, and it really enhances it. Not really a sauce, you know, caramelized onions, but kind of blends all the flavors together. So the balsamic vinegar is a nice addition to this dish. And you could see anything that might have been stuck on the bottom of the pan has now come off and is part of our onions. So we give that another couple of minutes, and then we're going to pull the pan. And our onions are complete. Look at how nice and golden they are. And they're sweet, and it's got that little bit of flavor of balsamic vinegar. Really nice. The butter and the olive oil all combined. What's great about this dish when we put it together is you have a little bit of sweet, you have a little bit of tart with the tzatziki sauce, and then you have our garlicky, oregano, seared chicken, and it's just a really nice flavor combination. And we're going to start the chicken. So now we're ready for our chicken. Now I'm using a cast iron skillet. Just going to put a little bit of olive oil in there. We don't need a lot because we have a lot of olive oil on the chicken. And let's just roll that around a little bit. If you use a cast iron pan, just be careful on the edges because it really does get hot. If you don't have cast iron, the largest saute pan you possibly have. Now the thing to point out about this is, oftentimes with marinades, we have to dry off the product so that it sears properly, because if there's too much liquid, you're not going to get that sear in the pan. But this doesn't throw off a lot of liquid, as you can see, which is why it's very important that it's cold and it's marinated at least 3 hours. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you have that flattened out. You could have your oven on about 200 degrees. One thing we look for is the edges are starting to turn white, so we know it's cooking nicely. Okay, we're going to give that a flip. See the bottom? Nice and brown. And again, if you see that one piece is getting a little bit too cooked as compared to the next, or one piece isn't cooked enough, you're going to kind of shift them around the pan to where the heat is. Now you can see how nice and seared and golden this chicken is. And you see how the oregano and the garlic binded to the chicken? That's what we're looking for. So we're going to plate this up. And our last little piece, giving me a hard time here. I'm going to clean up a little bit. I'm going to wipe our dish, and then we'll put it all together for you. So here's our entree. We have our grilled chicken, nicely seared with oregano, olive oil, and garlic, which was marinated for 3 hours. And we have our caramelized onions with a little bit of balsamic reduction just to add that burst of flavor. And we have our tzatziki, which is our cucumber yogurt dressing. And they all blend really well together. It's a great meal with a little touch of Mediterranean. Enjoy. So we're ready for our side dish, which is orzo with butter, lemon, and grated cheese, Parmesan cheese. But first, we're going to go over to the stove. We're going to cook our orzo. We're starting with a pound. We have our water at the stove, which has a little bit of salt, and it's boiling. We're going to go throw the orzo in there. Okay, so we have a rolling boil going here, and we're going to add our orzo, and you want to make sure you stir that up well. And the perfect amount of time for al dente is 10 minutes. Okay, so we've drained the orzo. And that was 10 minutes. 10 minutes for al dente. Okay, so I'm mixing in the butter, and obviously we want to do this when it's hot. And we're going to melt that along here, just tossing. We're going to add our lemon juice, 2 to 3 tablespoons, depending on the size of lemon. But we are going to use all of the zest from the lemon. Now you can use all kinds of instruments, kitchen utensils. I have this one which works well. There's this, you know, they all do the same thing, but you want to do that while the lemon is whole. So you're going to wash your lemon, and then you're going to dry it well, and then you'll use your zester, and you don't want to get the pith, which is the white part, just the yellow. And that works really nice in this recipe. So, okay, and our fresh chopped parsley, and that is flat leaf parsley. And lastly, we have our freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Not really necessary to use an imported cheese. I'm using a domestic, and it works really fine. I am a pepper person, so I tend to go a little heavy on the pepper, but that's to taste. And a little bit of our Himalayan salt. So we have our lemon orzo with Parmesan cheese and parsley. It's a great side dish. It goes really well with the chicken we prepared. It's really versatile, it's light, delicious. And now my favorite part of the meal, dessert. We're doing gingered pear crisp today, and we have 2 levels of our recipe. First thing is our crumb topping. Now that has crushed walnuts, we have rolled oats, butter, flour, brown sugar, and cinnamon, and the secret ingredient, which is crystallized ginger. Adds just a great flavor to that crust. And then on the other side of it is the body of the dessert, and we have our Gingered pears. Most of them have been sliced, but I'm going to show you my little secret to slicing these. And we have the body of it, which is also made with the flour, We have lemon zest, lemon juice, and incidentally, you really need lemon juice with pears because by themselves, if you were to cook this without lemon juice, the recipe would almost taste flat. You really need lemon juice to sort of complement the sweetness of the pears. We have some melted butter. We have our turbinado sugar, which I like to use because it's got some molasses essence in there, little remnants of it, a little more toasty, adds flavor as opposed to the white sugar. And we have, once again, our crystallized ginger. And we have our spices, which is our cinnamon, nutmeg, and just a pinch of cloves. Have to be careful with the cloves because they're very overwhelming. They can be. So just a pinch in this recipe. Okay, let's get started with the topping first. So we're going to start with the butter. I like to add some of the rough ingredients first. So we're going to put our, the ones with a little more body as opposed to the flour so it doesn't get too pasty. So we're going to put our chopped walnuts, and we have our rolled oats, and we're just going to kind of mix that around a little bit just to combine it. Now you can buy walnuts chopped. It really saves a lot of time in the kitchen. Even if you put them in your food processor, they tend to get dusty. You have that walnut dust, and it can make the topping a little pasty. So if you can, get them pre-chopped, and they work really nicely in the recipe. And now our cinnamon and our crystallized ginger. Now this has been chopped. You want to make sure it's chopped, rough chopped, but it needs to be chopped a bit so it sort of evenly disperses in the crumb. And lastly, we're putting our flour in. Tossing, and it's going to resemble little pebbles, and then we know it's finished. It helps to put the flour in at the end because you've already coated the nuts and the oats with the butter, so it gets less pasty on your hands. Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, so take a look. See how it's all crumbly? And you can see the oats and the chopped walnuts. Nice and crumbly, almost like pebbles, and we know it's finished. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick with the pears. If you take your knife and you run it along the side of the core, you're going to get the meat out. Snip off the top, and you still have, this is all usable pear. You're going to flip it around, get the bottom off, and there's a little bit more you can use. Okay, so we're just going to slice that a bit, and we can add that. Now, if you offshoot it a little bit, just take your knife, and you can just get that little seed out of there, no big deal. Okay, now what you're going to do is we're going to cut that in half, and we're going to slice just like this. Maybe about 1/4 inch thickness. Now, another thing to point out, these have been pre-sliced, and you see they're a little brown. Not a big deal for this recipe. You don't need to put lemon juice and whatnot. It's really not necessary. So if you pre-cut them, no need to worry. Now, what I also love about these Anjou pears, you don't have to peel them, so which makes this recipe really easy. And don't let the outside scare you. Every now and then you're going to find a little nick here and there. It's usually not a problem. You kind of use your fingers as your guide, keeping the tip of your fingers in, pointed toward you so you don't slice them by accident. And you use your knuckle as the guide. And there you have it, okay? So there's all of our pears. Now there's a lot of pears in this dish because they cook down. I'm using, it must be about 8 pears in here. Now we're going to add our lemon juice, which I said you really need the lemon juice just to add a little tartness. So let's just toss that a little bit. Okay, and we're adding some melted butter. I use salted butter. A little baking secret. If you look at a lot of baking recipes, a lot of them call for some salt and then sweetened butter, okay, non-salted butter. I use salted butter, I don't add the extra salt, and it always works out fine. Here's our lemon rind, okay, lemon zest. We have our crystallized ginger, which has been chopped, turbinado sugar, okay, and our spices. We have cinnamon, pinch of clove, and we have our ginger. Okay, we're going to mix that up, and lastly, we're going to put the flour in. Very carefully try to get all this mixed, and there's our flour. Love this dish. It's the smell when it's cooking is just So aromatic. So everything's been nicely combined. Now my pan has already been greased, okay, and we're using a 9x12, not 9x13 actually. Now again, this looks like a lot of pears, but when you see it come out, you'll see that they decrease in volume. And if there's anything that wasn't mixed, you can kind of just go through this like. Now for the crumb topping. I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. One thing I should point out, your pears should be flat if possible. You don't want edges sticking out of the crumb. They will get dried out in the baking process, so give that a little bit of a pat down there. And using a spatula works well. I really like the addition of the oats. Now, if you're not a walnut lover, you can use pecans. And you just chop them the same way, or you can also get pecans chopped. Okay, so you see I have a couple of little pears sticking out there. I'm just gonna move the crumb along, making sure that everything's covered. And I always like to wipe the dish a little bit before we pop it in the oven. Now we're gonna cook this at 375 for 40 minutes. Okay, our oven's been preheated. In it goes. I like to put it in the middle of the oven, and we're going to give that 40 minutes and it will be perfectly done. Okay, it's been 40 minutes, so I think it's safe to say that we're done. We're going to go take a look. Yes, indeed. Okay, it's nice and brown. And we can see that the filling is done, and we are good to go. Gingered Pear Crisp. So we have our Mediterranean feast here. We're gonna just dress our salad. This was our balsamic roasted garlic dressing. And it takes about 3/4 of a cup. You'll have a little extra to dress this salad. So we're gonna toss that up a little bit, making sure everything's combined. And let's just plate this. You can see how beautiful these colors are. And the cheese just adds such a nice element to it. Got a little sweet, you have a little crunchy, you have the saltiness of the cheese. It's just wonderful. So we have our feast all prepared. We started with our tricolor salad with shaved parmesan and a roasted garlic balsamic vinaigrette. We have our Mediterranean grilled chicken, which had lots of garlic and oregano, and we have our orzo, which had lemon, parsley, and Parmesan cheese. We also have our tzatziki, our Greek yogurt sauce, our caramelized onions, and the best part, our gingered pear crisp. And we served it with some vanilla ice cream. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll follow me on social media, and be sure to visit my website, eatdrinkandbakewithandrea.com. Until next time.